Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to Buddhism Wisdom Teachings. Today, I want to invite you into a different kind of conversation, a conversation that asks us to really look at what's happening inside us. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how much pleasure we chase, there's still a sense of emptiness that lingers afterward? Have you ever asked why the Buddha warned us so urgently about sensuality and lust? Today, together, we're going to explore the hidden fires burning within our hearts and learn how to find the true coolness of peace. Stay with me until the end because I promise you, this may change the way you see your life forever. Chapter 1, Seeing the World Through the Buddha's Eyes. When the Buddha finally sat under the Bodhi tree and touched the earth with his hand, awakening fully to the nature of existence, he didn't just find peace for himself. He saw us, all of us, burning, not metaphorically burning, not poetically burning, really burning with desire, burning with anger, burning with delusion. It's hard to grasp that image today because, let's be honest, when we look around, it doesn't feel like the world is on fire. We see people laughing over coffee, kids running through parks, lovers holding hands on a warm evening. But that's exactly the danger. The fire is invisible to the untrained eye. It's subtle. It's hidden beneath layers of what we call normal life. The Buddha could see it because his mind was clear. Ours, not so much. But that's a fire we don't recognize. Take a moment and think about the last time you wanted something badly. Maybe it was a new car. Maybe it was that someone would text you back. Maybe it was just the craving for a slice of cake after dinner. At first, it feels almost sweet, right? That little spark of excitement, that anticipation. But if you really pay attention, underneath that sweetness is a kind of agitation, a tension, a sense of incompleteness, like something is missing and you can't be happy until you get it. That's the burning the Buddha saw, not the thing itself, not the cake or the car or the text message, but the deep, gnawing dissatisfaction that says, I can't be okay unless. We think of desire as pleasure, but what if it's really just pain wearing a pretty mask? My own story. The phone call that burned. I remember once, a few years ago, waiting for a very important call. It was a job interview that could have changed my life. Better pay, more prestige, everything I thought I wanted. I spent the whole day checking my phone every 5 minutes. Every time it buzzed, my heart would leap. Every time it stayed silent, my stomach would tighten into a knot. When the call finally came, and yes, it was good news, there was a brief moment of elation, maybe 30 seconds. Then, almost immediately, a new burning started. What if I can't live up to their expectations? What if someone else gets a better offer? What if this isn't really what I want after all? That's when I realized the fire didn't end when I got what I wanted. It just changed shape. It went from craving to anxiety, from hope to fear. And honestly, it felt endless. That was the first real glimpse I had into what the Buddha meant. We think we're chasing happiness, but we're really chasing fires that we don't know how to put out. Burning beyond the obvious. Burning beyond the obvious. The Buddha wasn't just talking about lust or anger in big, obvious forms. He pointed out that every one of our 6 senses is on fire. The eye, craving beautiful sights, fearing ugly ones. The ear, craving sweet sounds, fearing harsh ones. The nose, craving pleasant smells, fearing foul ones. The tongue, craving delicious tastes, fearing bitter ones. The body, craving soft touch, fearing pain. The mind, craving good thoughts, fearing bad ones. It's like being surrounded by a forest fire that's burning inside your own body and mind and thinking somehow that it's normal. And we are conditioned to believe that life must be lived this way, that craving, clinging, chasing, these are just what it means to be human. But what if that's the greatest delusion of all? The mistake we keep making. One of the saddest mistakes we make is confusing burning for bliss. Think about it. You eat an incredible meal, and what's the first thought afterward? When can I eat that again? You fall in love, and almost immediately start fearing losing it. You buy something new, and soon after it loses its sparkle. Every single pleasure we chase is soaked with anxiety, with longing, with a kind of restlessness that never really goes away. But because we get tiny flashes of relief, because there's a brief moment where the craving stops when the desire is fulfilled, We convince ourselves this must be happiness. It's like scratching an itch until you bleed and mistaking the momentary absence of itching for health. Real health, the Buddha teaches, is when the itching itself stops. Seeing with clear eyes. If the Buddha could see burning everywhere, and if most of us cannot, then the real question isn't, is the world burning? The real question is, why can't we see it? The answer, of course, is simple and terrifying. Because we are in it. We are made of it. Our identities, our habits, our hopes, our fears, all soaked in the fire of craving. To see the burning, we would have to stand outside of it. And to stand outside of it, we would have to give up everything we think we are. Our attachments, our desires, even our most precious self-images. It's not an easy ask, but it's the only way to real freedom. A tiny glimpse, personal reflection. I'll be honest, even after years of practicing meditation and studying the Dharma, I still get caught by the fire almost every day. Sometimes it's small, craving a good cup of coffee. Sometimes bigger, craving recognition, success, affection. But every once in a while, there's a tiny shift. Maybe I'll see a beautiful sunset, and instead of reaching for my phone to capture it, I'll just breathe. I'll feel the warm air on my skin, the light flickering against the clouds, and for a brief moment, there's no burning. Just presence, just peace. It doesn't last forever, but it's enough to know this is what the Buddha was pointing to. A life not consumed by endless chasing. A life where peace isn't something you find outside yourself, but something that arises naturally when the fire dies down. Why this matters so much? You might be wondering, okay, but what's the big deal? Isn't desire what makes life exciting? Sure, in a way. Desire gives color and movement to life, but it also gives suffering, a lot of suffering. And when we live blind to the fire, when we mistake burning for bliss, we make choices that hurt ourselves and everyone around us. We chase what can't last, we hurt others in the process, we build our lives on shifting sand. The Buddha wasn't asking us to give up joy. He was offering us real joy. A joy that doesn't depend on the next craving being fulfilled. A joy that isn't threatened every time life changes. Because life will change. That's the only guarantee. Final thoughts on Chapter 1. Seeing the world through the Buddha's eyes isn't about judging it. It's about understanding it. It's about waking up to the fires inside us. Not to hate them, not to fear them, but to gently, patiently, steadily put them out. Desire burns, anger burns, delusion burns. But underneath it all, there's a part of you that's always been cool, always been peaceful, always been free. The Buddha didn't give us a map to somewhere else. He gave us a match to light a different kind of fire. The fire of wisdom, the fire of compassion, the fire of awakening. And once that fire is lit, the old fires have no chance at all. Chapter 2. The Leper and the Flame. The Buddha was a master of imagery. He didn't just lecture about abstract ideas. He told vivid, unforgettable stories that cut straight to the heart. One of the most powerful images he ever gave us was this. The mind caught in sensual craving is like a leper with open wounds, scratching at a burning fire just to relieve the unbearable itch. At first, the fire feels good. It soothes the itch. It seems like comfort. But when the disease is cured, when the leper is healed, the fire is seen for what it really is. Pure agony. The healthy person would never dream of sticking their wounds into the flames. Only someone who is sick would ever think that fire feels good. And that, my friends, is exactly where we find ourselves. The comfort of the fire. Let's be honest. Craving feels good sometimes. The rush of excitement when you get a text from someone you like, the smell of your favorite meal cooking, the warmth of physical affection. It feels good in the moment. It feels real. It feels human. But is it healing us, or is it, like the fire to the leper, just temporary relief for a deeper disease? When we are trapped in ignorance, when we don't see clearly, we can't help but mistake the burn for bliss. And because of that, we keep feeding the flames again and again. My own story. The night I chased the fire. I'll never forget one night in college. I had just gone through a tough breakup. Heartbroken, confused, lonely, the whole package. So what did I do? The same thing most people would. I went out, I partied, I surrounded myself with noise, flashing lights, new faces, anything to distract me from the pain inside. For a few hours, it worked. The music was loud, the laughter was easy, the drinks were strong. But when I stumbled back to my dorm room at 3 a.m., alone, exhausted, empty, the loneliness hit even harder. I remember sitting on the floor, head in my hands, thinking, I chased the fire and now I'm even more burned than before. That was my first real taste of what the Buddha meant. Temporary pleasure doesn't heal suffering. It only numbs it, and when the numbness wears off, the pain is even sharper. Why craving keeps us sick. The thing about craving is, it's addictive. Just like scratching a rash makes it worse, chasing after sensual pleasure deepens the cycle of dissatisfaction. Every time we act on craving, we reinforce the belief that I need something outside of myself to be okay. And so every small pleasure, every hit of dopamine, every thrill cements that sickness deeper into our bones. The Buddha wasn't saying that pleasure is evil. He was pointing out something even more dangerous. Pleasure that depends on craving keeps us trapped in suffering. We are the leper, and we think the fire is our friend. The illusion of control. One of the saddest ironies of craving is that it tricks us into believing we're in control. We think, I'll just have one more drink, I'll just flirt a little, I'll just check social media for a minute. We tell ourselves we're choosing freely. But if you really pay attention, it often feels more like compulsion than choice. There's a restlessness to it, a desperation, a feeling that if you don't scratch the itch, you might explode. True freedom isn't the ability to chase every desire. True freedom is not being ruled by desire at all. Healing the itch. So what's the alternative? The Buddha didn't leave us stuck with a depressing diagnosis. He showed a way out. Healing begins when we start to see the fire for what it is. Not glamorous, not satisfying, not the source of life, just fire, painful, dangerous, empty. When you start to catch even small glimpses of this truth, something shifts inside you. You don't stop feeling desires immediately, but you stop believing them so completely. You pause, you question, you feel the itch, and sometimes you choose not to scratch. And every time you make that choice, the healing deepens. A personal turning point. I remember about a year after I started meditating seriously, I faced a real test. I was sitting at home one evening when loneliness crept in. The old, familiar ache. Usually, I would have jumped onto a dating app, started swiping, looking for validation, attention, anything to fill the space. But this time, something inside me hesitated. Instead of reaching for my phone, I just sat there. I closed my eyes, I breathed. I allowed the feeling of loneliness to arise, without fighting it, without feeding it. It was excruciating at first, like sitting with an itch that screamed to be scratched. But then, after a few minutes, something strange happened. The loneliness softened. It became just another sensation, like a breeze passing through. It didn't define me anymore. It didn't control me. For the first time, I tasted a little bit of real freedom. Not because I made the loneliness go away, but because I stopped being a slave to it. Understanding true health. When the leper is healed, the fire becomes unbearable. He would never willingly stick his hands into the flames again. In the same way, when our minds begin to heal, the pleasures we used to chase so desperately start to lose their charm. They don't disappear overnight, but they lose their power over us. And in the space that craving once filled, something new starts to grow. Peace, contentment, clarity. Not the flashing, frantic highs of sensual pleasure, but the deep, steady glow of a mind at ease. Craving isn't the enemy. Blindness is one important thing to remember. The Buddha never condemned desire itself as evil. He pointed to ignorance, not seeing clearly, as the real problem. Craving isn't some villain out to get you. It's just a symptom of misunderstanding. When you believe that pleasure will fix you, you crave. When you realize that no external pleasure can complete you, you find another way. The more clearly you see, the less power craving has. Not because you force yourself to stop wanting, but because you stop being fooled. Everyday healing. You don't have to become a monk to start healing the fire inside. It starts small. Notice when you're reaching for comfort mindlessly. Pause before giving in to every impulse. Feel the craving without immediately acting on it. Reflect on whether the pleasure you're chasing actually brings peace or just temporary relief. And most of all, be kind to yourself. Healing isn't about harsh self-judgment. It's about waking up gently but persistently again and again. Chapter 3. Fantasies that burn brighter than reality. The Buddha didn't just warn us about chasing pleasures out in the world. He pointed to something even sneakier, even harder to spot, our obsession with fantasies. Not the pleasures themselves, not the food, the sex, the wealth, the praise, but the mental stories we spin about them, the fantasies we nurse inside our heads, the dreams we replay over and over again, the what-if scenarios that seem sweeter than reality ever could be. And here's the scary part. Most of the time, it's not the pleasure we're attached to. It's the fantasy about the pleasure. So, the dream is better than the reality. Think about it. How many times have you planned something in your mind? A perfect vacation, a romantic evening, a career success, and the imagining felt even better than when it actually happened. You picture the beach, perfect weather, no worries, endless joy. But when you finally get there, it rains. You get a sunburn, you argue with your travel buddy, or you plan the perfect date, every detail in place. In your mind, it's magic. In real life, it's awkward silences, spilled drinks, and missed cues. The fantasy is always smoother than reality. Because in the mind, we can control everything. We can edit out the awkwardness, the pain, the unpredictability. In reality, life is messy. Life is complicated. Life doesn't bend to our imaginations. And yet, we keep returning to the fantasies. My own story, the dream apartment. A few years ago, I spent months dreaming about moving into a new apartment. I had it all planned in my head. Huge windows, quiet neighbors, perfect lighting for lazy Sunday mornings with coffee and books. When I finally moved in, the reality hit hard. Sure, the windows were big, but they leaked cold air in the winter. The neighbors, loud college students who loved 2 a.m. karaoke. The perfect lighting? Mostly gray, because the building next door blocked the sun half the day. At first, I was crushed. I thought I had made a huge mistake. But looking back, I realized the real mistake wasn't the apartment. It was the fantasy I built up beforehand. An unrealistic story that no reality could ever live up to. Why we prefer the fantasy. The mind loves fantasies because they offer something reality can't. Control. In your dreams, everything goes your way. Everyone says the right thing. Nothing unexpected happens. Fantasies also feel safe. They let us experience pleasure without risk. You can dream about the perfect partner without risking rejection. You can imagine career success without facing the grind and uncertainty. Fantasies give us the illusion of satisfaction without the messiness of real life. But there's a cost. Living in fantasy makes real life feel dull, disappointing, unsatisfying. It deepens our craving. It widens the gap between what we imagine and what we actually have. And that gap, that endless gap, is suffering. The addiction to thinking. Sometimes we believe we're addicted to pleasures. But the deeper addiction is often to thinking about pleasures. We don't just crave the taste of chocolate. We crave thinking about how good the chocolate will taste. We don't just crave the applause. We crave fantasizing about standing on that stage, basking in it. Our minds spin these tapes over and over like addicts chasing a high. And every time we indulge the fantasy, we reinforce the idea that happiness is always somewhere else. Never here, never now. A personal wake-up call. I remember one afternoon sitting at a cafe, staring out the window. I had just gotten some good news, a small promotion at work, and instead of enjoying it, my mind immediately jumped into fantasy. Maybe this will lead to an even bigger opportunity. Maybe now I'll finally get the recognition I deserve. Maybe I'll become someone important. It was endless. And I realized, sitting there with my coffee growing cold, I wasn't happy at all. I was anxious, restless, already craving the next thing. I had left the real world, the cozy coffee shop, the gentle rain outside, the simple joy of being alive, for a fantasy that only made me feel emptier. That moment woke me up. The fantasy wasn't adding to my life, it was stealing from it. Why the Buddha focused on the mind when the Buddha said the mind was on fire? He wasn't exaggerating. He saw that most of our suffering doesn't come from the world. It comes from how we think about the world. The sights, sounds, smells, tastes, they're neutral. But the stories we build around them, that's where the fire rages. And because those stories are endless, the fire never dies down until we learn to stop feeding it. Letting go of the dream. The solution isn't to stop dreaming entirely. It's human to imagine, to plan, to hope. The key is seeing fantasies for what they are, stories. Not reality, not promises, not guarantees, just stories. And when you see them as stories, you can enjoy them without being trapped by them. You can plan a trip without expecting it to be perfect. You can dream about a new job without tying your happiness to it. You can hope without clinging. You can live without burning. Practical steps to free the mind. Here's how I've been practicing, and maybe it will help you too. Catch yourself fantasizing. Notice when your mind starts spinning elaborate stories. Come back to your senses. Feel your body. Listen to the sounds around you. Ground yourself in what's real. Question the fantasy. Ask, is this helping me or is it just fueling craving? Be gentle. Don't attack your mind for fantasizing. Just smile, breathe, and return to the present. Every time you do this, you weaken the fire just a little bit more. And over time, the mind grows cooler, calmer, freer. A small victory. Just the other day, I caught myself. I was about to lose myself in another fantasy about what could be. Some future version of myself, more successful, like more admired, more perfect. And instead of following it, I paused. I looked around. I noticed the way the afternoon sun filtered through the blinds, the smell of fresh coffee, the soft hum of life happening around me. And I thought, this is enough. Not because it was extraordinary, but because it was real. And for that moment, the fire went out. Chapter 4, The Real Price of Sensuality. If you ask most people what they want out of life, they'll say, some version of this. I just want to be happy. And if you ask how they plan to get there, the answers almost always involve sensual pleasures. Good food, good sex, nice clothes, a beautiful home, exciting vacations, the right partner. In our culture, sensuality isn't just accepted, it's celebrated, it's marketed, it's sold to us as the very definition of happiness. But here's the uncomfortable truth the Buddha pointed out. The more we chase sensuality, the more we suffer. And the worst part, most of the time we don't even realize the deal we're making until it's too late. The fleeting nature of pleasure. Let's start with something simple. Think about the best meal you've ever had. Maybe it was a steak cooked to perfection. Maybe it was a slice of cheesecake so rich it melted on your tongue. It felt amazing for a few minutes. But where is that pleasure now? Gone. All that remains is a memory, a shadow of something that once felt real. And what's worse, the memory can itself become another source of craving. I wish I could taste that again. When will I have something that good next? Nothing else measures up. The pleasure didn't last, but the hunger it created did, and so the cycle continues. My own story, chasing the high. When I first got my own apartment in the city, I was obsessed with decorating it perfectly. I spent months picking out the right furniture, the right art for the walls, even the perfect set of plates and silverware. I told myself once everything is perfect, I'll finally feel at peace. And for a day or two after it all came together, I did feel good. I'd sit on my new couch, sip coffee from my fancy mug, and think, I made it. But then the glow started to fade. The couch got a coffee stain, the plates chipped, the art on the walls stopped catching my eye, and pretty soon the restlessness returned. Maybe I need better furniture. Maybe I should move to a nicer place. Maybe I should redo everything. That's when I realized it wasn't about the stuff. It was about the fire inside me that no amount of stuff could ever satisfy. The price we don't see. Here's the tricky part. Sensual pleasures don't just cost money or time or energy. They cost something far more precious: peace. Every time we chase after a sensory experience, we reinforce the idea that happiness is somewhere outside of ourselves. We teach our minds, I can't be happy unless I have this. I can't feel complete unless I experience that. And so, without even realizing it, we become slaves. Slaves to our appetites, slaves to our cravings, slaves to an endless treadmill that never stops moving. The deeper dangers of sensuality. The Buddha wasn't naive. He knew that sensual pleasures can feel good in the moment, but he also saw the full picture, the parts we usually don't want to look at. He saw how people lie, cheat, and steal to get what they crave. Friends become enemies over a lover's betrayal. Families break apart, fighting over inheritance and wealth. Nations go to war for resources and pride. When craving dominates the heart, compassion shrivels. Kindness dies. Wisdom is blinded. Sensuality isn't just a personal issue, it's a social disease, and the longer we refuse to see it, the more we feed it. Personal reflection, a relationship built on craving. Years ago, I was in a relationship that on the surface looked perfect. We traveled together. We had fun nights out. We posted the cute pictures, got the likes, lived the dream. But underneath, there was a hunger that never seemed satisfied. I craved more attention. She craved more excitement. We both kept trying to extract happiness from each other, like two starving people fighting over scraps. And when the relationship ended, it was messy and painful. Not because we didn't care, but because we had built something on craving, not on real understanding. We were both using each other to feed our inner fires. And when the fires burned too hot, everything collapsed. Why sensuality always ends in loss. The Buddha said it plainly, all that is subject to arising is subject to ceasing. Whatever pleasure you cling to, no matter how sweet, no matter how perfect, it will end. It's not personal, it's the law of impermanence. That perfect sunset will fade, that thrilling romance will change, that delicious meal will be digested and forgotten. The moment we cling to any experience, we are signing up for heartbreak. Not because life is cruel, but because we are asking something fragile and temporary to satisfy a hunger that is endless. It's like trying to fill a bottomless pit with sand. No matter how much you pour in, it will never be enough. Is pleasure itself the problem? No. Pleasure isn't evil. Pleasure isn't wrong. The problem isn't feeling good. The problem is clinging. It's the attachment, the insistence that pleasure must last, the fear of its loss, the endless reaching for more. It's not the sunset's fault that it fades. It's not the food's fault that it disappears. It's our refusal to accept impermanence that creates suffering. When we can enjoy a moment without grabbing it, without owning it, without needing it to complete us, then pleasure becomes pure again. Then, paradoxically, we can experience it more deeply because we're not afraid of losing it. Learning to let go. Letting go isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about becoming wise. It's about loving what's real without demanding that it stay forever. It's about tasting the sweetness of life without needing to devour it. It's about seeing beauty and smiling when it passes. The real price of sensuality isn't just the loss of peace in the moment. It's the loss of the freedom to be fully alive, right here, right now, without needing anything extra. A small but powerful practice, simple, I started doing that changed everything. Whenever I catch myself chasing a sensory experience, whether it's food, affection, praise, I pause and ask, what am I really looking for? Almost always the answer is the same: safety, belonging, love, peace. And then I remind myself, those things can't be found outside. They have to be cultivated inside. It doesn't mean I stop enjoying a good meal or a hug or a kind word. It just means I no longer believe those things are the source of my happiness. They are beautiful gifts, not essential needs. Chapter 5, Society's Obsession with Sensuality and How to Rise Above It. Let's be honest, we live in a world addicted to sensuality. It's not subtle, it's not hidden, it's everywhere, screaming at us from billboards, flashing at us from our phones, whispering to us in every TV show, every advertisement, every pop song. From the time we're kids, we're fed the same message. Happiness is pleasure. Success is looking good, feeling good, having more. The more you have, the better your life will be. And you know what? It's really tempting to believe it, because when everyone around you is chasing the same thing, it feels like the most natural thing in the world. Swimming in the same water. It's like asking a fish to notice the water it's swimming in. We're so surrounded by sensuality, the obsession with appearances, with comfort, with entertainment, that we barely even question it. It's normal to spend hours scrolling through Instagram, comparing our lives to photoshopped highlights. It's normal to binge watch shows that glorify wealth, violence, and lust. It's normal to measure our worth by how desirable we are, how much stuff we own, how impressive our lives look to others. Normal, expected, encouraged. But just because something is common doesn't mean it's wise. My own story, getting hooked by the hype. I remember when I first got a real paycheck after college. It wasn't much, but to me, it felt like the beginning of adulthood. Freedom. And what was the first thing I did? I bought stuff. Shoes I didn't need, gadgets I barely used, expensive dinners just to show I could afford them. It felt good for a minute, until I checked my bank account, until the excitement faded, until I realized I was just another hamster on the wheel, working to buy things I didn't even really want, to impress people who didn't even really care. And deep down, I was still restless, still searching, still burning. That was the first crack in the illusion for me. The realization that the system is designed to keep us craving because craving keeps the machine running. The machinery of craving. Make no mistake, there are entire industries built around keeping you dissatisfied. They want you to feel not attractive enough, so you'll buy more beauty products, not successful enough, so you'll work harder and buy more status symbols, not entertained enough, so you'll binge more content, consume more media, not connected enough, so you'll chase likes, followers' approval. And the thing is, it works really, really well, because as long as you're craving, you're spending, you're working, you're consuming, you're too busy chasing the next hit of pleasure to ever stop and ask, wait, is this really making me happy? Why rising above is so hard. Knowing all this doesn't automatically free you. Even when you see the trap, it's still incredibly hard to step out of it. Why? Because the craving isn't just outside you, it's inside you. Society doesn't create craving from scratch. It exploits what's already there. Our deep aching desire to feel loved, feel important, feel safe, feel like we matter. The world hooks those tender spots and yanks on them again and again. So even if you intellectually know that more stuff, more attention, more pleasure won't satisfy you, your heart still falls for it sometimes. Mine sure does. Personal reflection, the allure of approval. There's a part of me, even now, that loves being praised. When someone compliments my work or tells me I'm wise or admires something I've done, I feel it light up inside me like fireworks. And it's so easy to start chasing that feeling. Say the smart thing. Post the impressive update. Look good, sound good, win approval. But every time I go down that road, there's a crash afterward. Because no amount of praise can fill the space inside that longs for real connection, real peace. No amount of approval can fix the basic human insecurity of not knowing who we are beyond the stories we tell. That kind of peace doesn't come from outside. It can only be found by turning inward. He said the Buddha's radical invitation. The Buddha's message wasn't just be careful about sensuality. It was revolutionary. He said there is a happiness independent of sense pleasures, brighter, deeper, more stable, and it is available to you right now. But it's subtle, it's quiet, it's easy to miss if you're distracted by flashing lightless noise. It requires slowing down, paying attention, looking inside instead of chasing outside. It means what rising above really looks like. Rising above society's obsession with sensuality doesn't mean becoming a hermit or renouncing all pleasure. It means learning to enjoy without clinging, appreciating beauty without needing to possess it, experiencing pleasure without becoming a slave to it, feeling good without fearing the loss of it. It means building a happiness that is unshakable because it isn't based on circumstances. It's based on wisdom, on presence, on understanding the nature of reality, small steps toward freedom. You don't have to overthrow your whole life overnight. Freedom starts small. Notice when you're getting hooked by craving. Pause before acting on every impulse. Ask yourself, will this really satisfy me, or am I chasing an illusion? Practice gratitude for what you already have. And most importantly, reconnect with the part of you that doesn't need anything to be whole. Because that part, it's just been drowned out by the noise of the world. A simple practice that changed everything. One thing that helped me enormously was building a craving journal. Every time I caught myself craving something, a new gadget, a compliment, a snack I didn't need, I'd jot it down. What was I craving? What did I think it would give me? What feeling was underneath the craving? Over time, patterns started to emerge. I saw that behind almost every craving was a deeper desire for security, belonging, peace, self-worth. And slowly, gently, I started learning to address those deeper needs directly, through meditation, through real connection, through self-kindness, instead of chasing empty pleasures. It wasn't about fighting the cravings, it was about understanding them, and that changed everything. Final thoughts for this chapter. Society will keep pushing sensuality. The ads will keep flashing, the songs will keep playing, the stories will keep spinning, but you can choose differently. You can wake up, you can see the burning for what it is. You can rise above the noise, the craving, the endless hunger, not by becoming cold, not by rejecting life, but by embracing it more fully, with clear eyes, an open heart, and a mind free from chains. This is what the Buddha offered, not just a set of rules, but a path to real freedom. And that freedom, it starts right here, right now, with you. Chapter 6, Finding Real Joy, the Happiness Beyond Sensual Pleasures. If you're like most people, the idea of happiness beyond sensual pleasures probably sounds strange. Isn't happiness about feeling good? Isn't it about enjoying life's pleasures? After all, that's what we're taught from the beginning. Eat good food, fall in love, travel to beautiful places, collect experiences, enjoy your senses. And yes, those things can be beautiful. There's nothing wrong with them. But the Buddha pointed to a deeper truth. As long as your happiness depends on the senses, it will always be fragile. It will always be at the mercy of changing circumstances, aging and illness, loss and disappointment. And that means your happiness will always be in danger. The problem with pleasure. Here's something we don't like to admit. Pleasure feels good, but it doesn't last. And worse, it often leaves behind a subtle craving for more. One amazing meal makes you want another. One thrilling romance makes you want the next. One success makes you chase an even bigger one. There's no final moment where you say, now I'm completely satisfied, I'm done. Instead, it's always, what's next? The Buddha saw this endless chasing for what it is, a cycle of suffering. And he didn't just point it out, he showed a way to step off the wheel entirely. My own story. Learning the limits of pleasure. A few years ago, I took what was supposed to be a dream trip. Beautiful beaches, luxury resorts, sunsets over the ocean. I had built it up in my mind for months. The perfect escape, the perfect happiness. And for a few days, it was great. Warm sun, good food, no responsibilities. But then the novelty started to fade. The same beach didn't feel so magical after the third day. The same fancy meals started to feel heavy and repetitive. The same freedom started to feel boring. And when the trip ended, I wasn't more fulfilled. If anything, I felt a little emptier because I realized the happiness I had been chasing wasn't out there. It was just another story I had told myself, another fantasy that didn't deliver. What the Buddha offered instead. The Buddha didn't tell us to hate pleasure. He didn't tell us to avoid beauty or joy. He simply pointed out there's a deeper, more stable kind of happiness available to you, a happiness that doesn't depend on outside conditions. It's a happiness that arises from within, from a mind that's clear, a heart that's open, a spirit that's free. It's a happiness that doesn't need everything to be perfect, because it already feels complete. The joy of seclusion. One of the most surprising things the Buddha taught is that real joy often comes from seclusion. Not seclusion in the sense of loneliness or isolation, but seclusion from the burning, the constant craving, the endless chasing, the restless noise inside. When the mind lets go even a little bit of its demands on the world, something amazing happens. A quiet joy bubbles up. A joy that isn't based on stimulation or excitement. A joy that's just there, simple, clean, radiant. A small experience of inner joy. I remember one afternoon sitting in a park doing nothing in particular. No phone, no music, no plans. Just sitting under a tree, feeling the breeze, and for a few minutes I wasn't wanting anything. Not more money, not more love, not more success. I wasn't rehearsing conversations or planning my future. I was just there. And in that simple being, there was a happiness so light, so effortless that it almost brought tears to my eyes. It wasn't loud or flashy. It didn't depend on anything happening. It was just the sweetness of existence itself. Why we overlook this joy? This kind of happiness is easy to miss because it's so quiet. It's not the adrenaline rush you get from a roller coaster. It's not the fireworks of falling in love. It's not the pride of winning a big prize. It's subtle. It requires slowing down, turning inward, listening carefully. And in a world that screams at us to be faster, louder, busier, quiet joys often get drowned out. But once you start noticing them, they change everything. Because they are stable, they are renewable, they don't leave you hungry for more. They satisfy at the deepest level. The path to true happiness. The Buddha laid out a path. Not a religion, not a set of blind beliefs, but a clear, practical path to this kind of joy. It's built on 3 foundations. Ethical living, sila, acting in ways that create peace instead of regret. Mental discipline, samadhi, training the mind to be steady and clear. Wisdom, panna, seeing things as they really are. Each step feeds the next. When you live ethically, your mind feels lighter. When your mind is lighter, it can concentrate better. When it concentrates better, it can see deeper truths. And seeing those truths frees you from the endless hunger for more. Small practices that open the door. You don't have to become a monk to start tasting this joy. You can start wherever you are. Here are a few simple practices. Mindful breathing. Spend 5 minutes a day just breathing, noticing your breath without judgment. Gratitude reflection. Every evening, name 3 things you're grateful for. Not big achievements, but small, simple things. Conscious enjoyment. The next time you enjoy something, a meal, a sunset, a hug, savor it fully without grasping at it, without needing it to last. Each of these tiny moments weakens the fire of craving and strengthens the glow of inner peace. A personal commitment. These days, I still enjoy good meals. I still appreciate beautiful music. I still laugh and love and dream. But I try, imperfectly but sincerely, not to lean on those things for my happiness. I try to remember the meal will end, the song will fade, the dream may change. And that's okay, because the real joy isn't in the thing itself. It's in the awareness, the presence, the freedom. It's in the ability to enjoy life without being enslaved by it. Closing thoughts for this chapter. Real joy doesn't burn. It doesn't exhaust you. It doesn't leave you craving more. It fills you. It nourishes you. It liberates you. The happiness the Buddha spoke of isn't reserved for saints or sages. It's available to you right now, in this breath, in this moment, in this very life. You don't have to chase it. You just have to stop running away from it. Chapter 7, How Reflection and Meditation Work Together, 2 hands washing each other. If you spend any time studying the Buddha's teachings, you'll notice something beautiful. He didn't just tell people to meditate. He didn't just tell people to think deeply. He taught that both reflection and meditation are necessary, like 2 hands washing each other. Each strengthens the other, and together they clean the heart. It's a simple idea, but when you really understand it, it changes everything. Why reflection alone isn't enough? Reflection, thinking deeply about life, about suffering, about impermanence, is powerful. It opens the mind, it invites wisdom, it makes you question the assumptions you've lived with your whole life. But reflection alone can also get you stuck. You can think and think and think and never find peace. You can analyze your cravings for hours and still be burned by them, because thinking, even wise thinking, is still happening at the surface level of the mind. It can show you the problem. It can even point toward the solution, but it can't heal you by itself. For healing, you need direct experience. You need stillness. You need the deep, wordless knowing that comes from meditation. Why meditation alone isn't enough? On the other hand, meditation without reflection can also go wrong. You can sit in perfect silence, counting your breaths, calming your mind, but without wisdom guiding you, it's easy to turn meditation into another form of escape. Another way to avoid the real work of waking up, You might get good at calming your nervous system, but still cling to cravings, still get lost in delusions. The Buddha didn't just want us to feel good during meditation. He wanted us to see clearly, to understand how suffering is created, to realize how liberation is possible. And for that, you need both the sharpness of reflection and the steadiness of meditation. My own struggles: thinking too much, sitting too little. When I first started practicing, I was obsessed with reading. I devoured books on Buddhism. I listened to countless Dharma talks. I could quote suttas and explain concepts like anicca, dukkha, and anatta pretty well. I thought, I'm getting it. But in reality, I was still caught, still restless, still anxious, still chasing approval, success, pleasure. Why? Because all my understanding was in my head. I wasn't sitting enough. I wasn't letting the teachings soak into my bones through silence and stillness. It wasn't until I committed to a regular meditation practice, even 20 minutes a day, that things started to shift. And even then, it wasn't dramatic. No fireworks, no magical bliss, just a gradual softening, a gradual deepening, a slow, steady awakening that words could never have given me alone. How reflection supports meditation. When you reflect, when you really contemplate the nature of desire, of impermanence, of suffering, you prime your mind for meditation. You prepare the soil. You remind yourself, chasing pleasure isn't the path to peace. Everything that arises will pass away. True happiness comes from letting go. And when you sit down to meditate after reflecting, your mind isn't as easily seduced by fantasies or fears. There's a quiet sense of purpose, a gentle determination. You're not just meditating because you should. You're meditating because you understand why it matters. Reflection gives your meditation depth. It reminds you what you're doing and why. How meditation supports reflection. On the flip side, meditation strengthens reflection. When your mind is still and clear, your insights don't just stay at the surface, they sink in. They transform you. A single quiet moment, seeing a craving arise and pass away during meditation, can teach you more than hours of reading. It's the difference between reading about the ocean and actually standing at the shore, feeling the salt wind on your face, hearing the crash of the waves in your chest. Meditation makes reflection real. It makes wisdom lived, not just thought. The image of two hands washing each other. The Buddha gave this image. Just as a hand washes the other hand and the two hands wash the face, so too reflection and meditation support and purify each other. It's so simple, so humble, not dramatic, not grandiose, just two hands working together. Natural, necessary. That's what the path is like. Sometimes your reflection helps steady your meditation. Sometimes your meditation makes your reflection deeper. Sometimes one hand is stronger, sometimes the other. It doesn't matter. They help each other. They grow together. A simple practice that combines both. Here's a practice I use almost every day. 1. Reflection, 5 minutes. Before meditating, I spend a few minutes contemplating a simple truth, like everything I cling to will eventually change. 2. Meditation, 20 minutes. Then I settle into my breath. I don't try to force insights, I just watch. I let whatever needs to arise, arise. 3. Post-meditation reflection, 5 minutes. After sitting, I gently reflect again. I notice, did I see craving arise? Did I notice? What did I learn, even subtly? It's simple. It's not flashy, but it's powerful because it trains both hands, both the thinking mind and the feeling heart. A personal story. When reflection and meditation met one afternoon after a stressful day at work, I sat down to meditate. But my mind was a mess, full of worries, judgments, resentments. Instead of forcing myself into silence, I reflected gently. All these thoughts, they're just clouds passing through the sky. Then I sat, and for once I didn't fight the thoughts. I watched them drift by. Some were angry, some were sad, some were hopeful, but none of them stayed. And for a brief, shining moment, I saw, not just thought, but saw, that my mind was like the sky, vast, open, untouched by the passing clouds. That insight wasn't something I read. It wasn't something I figured out. It was something I experienced, and that moment changed me. Why? It's worth it. Practicing reflection and meditation together isn't always easy. It takes patience, it takes humility, it takes willingness to sit with discomfort, But it's worth it because slowly, steadily, you stop living only on the surface. You start tasting something deeper, a peace that doesn't depend on perfect conditions, a joy that isn't threatened by change, a wisdom that sees through craving and fear. You start to become free, not because life becomes easy, but because you become steady, clear, compassionate, no matter what life brings. Chapter 8: Feeding the Forgotten Part of the Mind. Nourishing True Freedom. Most of us spend our entire lives feeding one part of our mind, the craving part, the part that says, I'll be happy when I get what I want. I need more success, more pleasure, more recognition. I'm not enough yet, but maybe if I work harder, buy more, impress more, then I will be. We feed that voice daily with endless scrolling, with chasing achievements, with fantasizing about a better future, with drowning discomfort in temporary pleasures. And meanwhile, there's another part of the mind, a quieter part, a part that longs not for more, but for peace. A part that doesn't want to climb higher or run faster, but simply to be free. The part we starve. The sad truth is, we rarely feed that quiet part. We're too busy, too distracted, too caught up in the noise, and because we starve it, it becomes faint. It becomes fragile. Sometimes we even forget it exists at all. We start believing that craving and grasping are all there is, that life is just an endless hustle, a game we can never win. But deep down, even if it's buried under years of distraction, the yearning for freedom is still there, waiting, hoping, calling softly through the noise. My own story. Hearing the quiet voice. I remember one evening after a long, exhausting day at work. I was sitting alone in my car, parked outside my apartment, too tired to even get out. I had spent the day hustling, trying to impress my boss, trying to keep up with endless emails, trying to prove something to myself, to others, to who knows who. And sitting there, drained and empty, I heard a voice inside, not a loud voice, not an angry one, just a soft, tired whisper. There has to be more than this. Not more success, not more status, not more stuff, more peace, more wholeness, more being, less chasing. That was the forgotten part of my mind speaking up finally after years of being ignored. And that moment changed everything. What the forgotten mind wants. The quiet part of your mind isn't asking for anything complicated. It doesn't want millions of dollars. It doesn't want a trophy partner. It doesn't even want perfect peace. It wants space, stillness, kindness, awareness. It wants to breathe. It wants to rest. It wants to remember what you already are before all the striving began. And feeding that part is the beginning of true freedom. How we start feeding it. You don't have to overthrow your life overnight. You don't have to renounce everything and move to a cave. You start small. You feed the forgotten mind by taking 5 minutes of real silence, no phone, no music, no agenda. Watching a sunset without trying to capture it for Instagram. Sitting with your emotions, even the uncomfortable ones, without needing to fix them immediately. Being kind to yourself, even when you feel like you're failing. Remembering that you are already complete, even without all the things you think you need. Every time you make space for the quiet part of your mind, you water a seed, and slowly that seed grows. That's so. Personal reflection, small moments of freedom. These days, I'm still in the world. I still work. I still deal with stress, bills, relationships, hopes, and fears. But I try a little more each day to feed the right part of my mind. I wake up and spend a few minutes just breathing before reaching for my phone. I notice when craving starts pulling at me, and sometimes I choose to pause instead of react. I practice saying to myself when things don't go my way, this too is okay. And slowly the craving part grows quieter. The peaceful part grows stronger. Not perfectly, not all at once, but genuinely, steadily. And that to me feels like real success. Why it's so hard and why it's so worth it. Feeding the quiet mind isn't glamorous. There are no fireworks, no immediate dopamine hits, no applause from the world. In fact, sometimes it feels boring at first because we're so used to noise, so addicted to stimulation, so wired for constant chasing. But over time, something incredible happens. You start to notice how beautiful a simple breath can be, how rich a moment of genuine presence feels, how precious a quiet mind is in a noisy world. And you realize this is the treasure. This is what I was chasing all along, but looking for in all the wrong places. Actus, a practical way to feed the mind each day. If you want to start nourishing the forgotten part of yourself, try this simple practice, the 3 breaths practice. Once a day, morning, lunch, evening, whenever, stop whatever you're doing. Take 3 slow, mindful breaths. With each breath, let go a little. Let go of rushing, let go of grasping, let go of needing anything to be different right now. 3 breaths. That's it. You don't need an hour of meditation. You don't need a silent retreat. You just need 3 breaths of real presence. And those tiny moments stacked up day after day can change your life. Listening to the forgotten voice. Sometimes when the craving mind is raging, it feels like the quiet mind has vanished. But it hasn't. It's still there, patient and still, like the sun hidden behind storm clouds. Your job isn't to find it. It's to stop fueling the storm. It's to listen, to trust, to create space. And the more you do, the more you'll hear it again. That soft, steady voice that says, you are enough, you are whole, you are free. Final thoughts for this chapter. The world will keep shouting, more, faster, better. And that part of your mind, the craving part, will keep answering. But you have another choice. You can feed the part of you that already knows peace, that already tastes freedom, that already shines with a quiet, steady joy. And every time you choose that, every time you nourish that, you are reclaiming your life. You are remembering who you really are. Not a hungry ghost forever chasing what you can never catch, but a luminous being already complete, already home, already free. Closing story, The Hermit and the King. Once long ago, there was a powerful king. He ruled over a vast, wealthy kingdom. His palaces gleamed with gold. His banquets overflowed with the richest foods. His servants hurried to fulfill his every wish. From the outside, he seemed to have everything a human being could want. And yet, inside, the king felt restless, uneasy, always wanting more. No matter how much he acquired, it never seemed to be enough. One day, he heard rumors of a strange man, a hermit who lived high in the frozen mountains, owning nothing, eating little, sleeping under the stars. The king was intrigued. Why would anyone choose such a miserable life, he wondered, when they could have luxury and comfort instead? Determined to understand, he ordered his finest horses prepared, and with a small group of guards, he rode deep into the mountains. After many hours of climbing rocky paths through biting wind and thick mist, the king finally found the hermit, sitting quietly by a small fire, wrapped in a simple cloak, his face calm and radiant. The king dismounted, approached, and asked, "Holy man, why do you live out here in the cold mountains, enduring hardship and loneliness, when you could have all the luxuries of my palace?" The hermit looked up, his eyes clear like a still lake, and with a gentle smile he said, "Your Majesty, a single breath of the pure mountain air, free from craving and fear, is worth more than a lifetime of palace pleasures." The king stood there, stunned. In that moment, he realized something no one in his court had ever dared to tell him. All his gold, all his power, all his pleasures, they had never freed him. They had only chained him tighter to craving, to fear, to dissatisfaction. The hermit, sitting there with nothing, was wealthier than the richest king, because he had the one treasure the king had never found: inner peace. Lesson from the story. The world offers us endless luxuries, things to chase, things to own, things to cling to. But real happiness doesn't come from adding more. It comes from letting go, from breathing one pure breath, free from the fires of craving and fear, from resting in the simple, profound joy of being enough, exactly as you are. That is the treasure the Buddha pointed to. That is the treasure waiting inside each of us. We don't have to climb a mountain to find it. We only have to turn inward and listen.